Take a look at what happened.
On July 13, 2024, Donald Trump narrowly escaped an assassination attempt during a political event amidst a volatile US presidential election campaign. This incident adds to a history of attacks on presidential candidates, including previous threats against Trump in 2016. This raises the question, why are US presidents often targeted in such attacks? Join us in this video as we explore past assassination attempts on US presidents, uncovering the reasons behind these violent acts. Number 10. Donald Trump. On July 13, 2024, a normal campaign rally would have turned into a tragedy as an assassination attempt was made on Donald Trump's life.
Take a look at what happened.
He narrowly avoided a tragic incident during a political event. As he campaigned for the 2024 presidential election, Trump made numerous stops, including a rally at the Butler Farm Show grounds in Butler County, Pennsylvania, on that day. This wasn't his first visit to this venue. He had previously held a rally there on August 12, 2016, during his earlier presidential campaign. That event was one of his initial stops in Pennsylvania, a pivotal battleground state in the 2016 election. The July 13th rally was among his final appearances before the Republican National Convention, scheduled to begin in Milwaukee on July 15th. As the event unfolded, Trump was seen touching his ear just as the shooting began. The Secret Service quickly shielded him and escorted him off stage into an SUV, with blood visible on his face. In a social media post, Trump explained that a bullet had grazed the upper part of his right ear. He recounted the experience, saying, "I knew immediately that something was wrong when I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and felt the bullet ripping through the skin. There was a lot of bleeding, and I realized then what was happening." Prior to this event, a major Supreme Court ruling on July 1st, 2024, concerning the extent of presidential immunity from criminal prosecution, also thrust Trump into the spotlight. This decision was part of the ongoing political and legal challenges Trump faced, including trials and investigations into his actions before and after his presidency. These legal battles, combined with the looming election, created a highly charged political atmosphere. The rally on Sunday, July 14th, was named after two individuals who were shot the previous day at Trump's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, both of whom are now in stable condition. In a press release on July 14th, the Pennsylvania State Police identified the victims as James Copenhaver from Moon Township, Pennsylvania, and David Dutch from New Kensington, Pennsylvania. Additionally, it was confirmed that Corey Comparatori was the intended target of the assassination attempt. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro announced his identity. The shooter, identified as Thomas Matthew Crooks, was a Pennsylvanian in his 20s. According to FBI agents, Crooks fired at Trump from the rooftop of a nearby building outside the rally's security perimeter before being fatally shot by the Secret Service. Witnesses described the scene as bloody and chaotic, with people struggling through the crowd while trying to administer first aid to those injured in the gunfire. According to officials, the shooting resulted in the death of one rally participant and critically injured two others. Despite his campaign's assurances that he was otherwise unharmed, Trump revealed on social media that he had been shot in the upper part of his ear. Following the incident, Trump took a late-night flight back to Newark, New Jersey. In an official statement, the FBI identified Thomas Matthew Crooks of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, as the individual involved in the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania. Crooks was armed with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle at the rally. Reports describe Crooks as a math whiz who graduated from Bethel Park High School in 2022 and received a $500 Star Award from the National Math and Science Initiative. After the attack on Trump, Secret Service agents fatally shot Crooks. The motive behind the attempted assassination remains unclear. The 20-year-old worked in a kitchen and was wearing a t-shirt from the YouTube channel Demolition Ranch, known for its firearms and demolition videos. Number 9. Andrew Jackson. The first known assassination attempt on a US president occurred on January 30th, 1835. Richard Lawrence, an unemployed English house painter, tried to shoot President Andrew Jackson twice as Jackson exited the Capitol's east portico after attending a funeral in the House of Representatives chamber. Remarkably, both of Lawrence's pistols misfired and Jackson survived unscathed. Andrew Jackson, born in the Carolinas before the American Revolutionary War, had a colorful and varied career. he married Rachel Donaldson Robards and established himself as a frontier lawyer. Jackson briefly served Tennessee in both the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives before becoming a justice on the Tennessee Superior Court from 1798 to 1804. On that fateful day in 1835, as Jackson was leaving the Capitol, Lawrence approached and aimed a pistol at him, but it failed to discharge. Lawrence then drew a second pistol, which also misfired. Jackson, undeterred, attacked Lawrence with his cane until bystanders intervened and subdued him. Lawrence was later found to be insane and was committed to a mental institution. Many attempts to alter American government policy through assassination have occurred, some successful and others thwarted. However, not all of these attacks were politically motivated. A significant portion of assailants were found to be legally insane or dealing with serious mental health issues. While the Department of Justice acknowledges numerous attempts, historian James W. Clark argues that most assailants have been of sound mind and motivated by political reasons. Number 8. Theodore Roosevelt Jr. Theodore Roosevelt Jr., affectionately known as Teddy or TR, was a multifaceted figure in American history. A politician, soldier, conservationist, naturalist, and writer who served as the 26th President of the United States from 1901 to 1909. On October 14, 1912, while en route to a campaign event in Milwaukee, Roosevelt was shot by John Schrank, a delusional saloon keeper. Schrank believed he had received a directive from the ghost of President William McKinley to assassinate Roosevelt. The incident took place outside the Gilpatrick Hotel. The bullet passed through a folded copy of Roosevelt's 50-page speech titled "Progressive Cause Greater Than Any Individual" and lodged into his chest after penetrating his steel eyeglass case. As Schrank attempted to fire again, Roosevelt's stenographer, Albert E. Martin, intervened, disarming Schrank and apprehending him. Roosevelt, fearing a potential lynching, ordered that Schrank be unharmed and turned over to the police. Despite the severity of his injuries, Roosevelt demonstrated remarkable resilience and decisiveness. Despite advice to seek immediate medical attention, Roosevelt, a seasoned hunter and anatomist, correctly deduced that the bullet had not punctured his lung because he was not coughing blood. Defying medical counsel, he proceeded to deliver a 90-minute speech with blood-stained clothing, assuring the audience of Schrank's safety. After being shot, Roosevelt delayed seeking medical treatment, discovering that the bullet had lodged in his chest muscle rather than penetrating his lung, confirmed by probes and an X-ray. Deciding against its removal due to potential risks, he carried the bullet with him for the rest of his life. Taking just 2 weeks to recuperate, Roosevelt resumed his campaign for re-election with characteristic determination. Despite his resilience, Roosevelt ultimately lost the election to Woodrow Wilson. In an unusual gesture, Roosevelt sent Schrank's gun, bullets, cartridge casing, and a gold watch with a poignant inscription to Albert E. Martin, the man who had disarmed Schrank and prevented further harm, to Albert E. Martin from Theodore Roosevelt, in remembrance of October 14, 1912. Number 7. George Walker Bush. Born on July 6, 1946 in New Haven, Connecticut, George Walker Bush is widely recognized as an influential American politician and businessman, serving as the 43rd President of the United States from 2001 to 2009. Bush's tenure was marked by significant domestic and international events, including the September 11th attacks and subsequent military actions in Afghanistan and Iraq. Prior to his presidency, Bush distinguished himself in Texas politics, where he served as the 46th governor from 1995 to 2000. His leadership in Texas focused on education reform, tax cuts, and welfare improvements, establishing a platform that would later influence his national policies as president. Bush's first year in office was notably marred by an attempted assassination. In February 2001, Robert Pickett, a disgruntled former IRS employee, fired multiple rounds outside the White House in an attempt to harm President Bush. Quick action by a Secret Service agent prevented a tragedy, as the agent shot Pickett in the leg before he could do further harm. Following the incident, authorities discovered a chilling suicide note in Pickett's vehicle, where he accused the IRS of wrongful actions leading to the death of an innocent person. Later, in 2005, during a speech at Freedom Square, Tbilisi, Georgia, President Bush faced another perilous moment when Vladimir Arutyunian hurled a live Soviet-era RGD-5 hand grenade towards the stage. Miraculously, a red tartan handkerchief tightly wrapped around the grenade's safety lever prevented it from detonating, averting potential casualties among the audience and dignitaries, including Georgian President Mikhail Saakashvili. Arutunian, however, managed to evade capture initially, but was apprehended later that year. During his arrest, he fatally shot an agent of the Georgian Interior Ministry, further underscoring the seriousness of the threat posed by his actions. In January 2006, Arutunian was tried and sentenced to life imprisonment for his attempted assassination and subsequent violent crime. Number 6. Donald Trump. Just before the recent attempt on Donald Trump's life, he narrowly evaded another serious threat in the past. On June 18, 2016, at a Donald Trump rally in Paradise, Nevada, Michael Steven Sanford attempted to seize a handgun from a Las Vegas Metropolitan Police officer assigned to security detail. While Donald Trump was addressing the crowd at 11:35 a.m., Michael Steven Sanford observed that Emil Jacob, a Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department officer responsible for event security, appeared to have his 9mm Glock 17 handgun accessible in its holster. Jacob was positioned approximately 9 meters, 30 feet, from the stage where Trump was speaking when Sanford approached him under the guise of requesting an autograph from the president. During their conversation, Sanford attempted to draw the officer's gun, but it became stuck in the holster. Jacob and 2 other officers quickly subdued Sanford and placed him under arrest. Sanford appeared bewildered at the time of his apprehension. Law enforcement officers commonly use retention holsters as part of their equipment. After Sanford was arrested, he voluntarily relinquished his Miranda rights and openly confessed his intention to assassinate Trump, citing his desire to prevent him from assuming the presidency.
No, I understand that. Do you think what you're doing is right? It's not.
Due to his prior involvement in renting firearms at a shooting range, Sanford faced charges of disorderly conduct and possession of a firearm by an illegal alien. On September 13, 2016, he pled guilty to both charges. Following an 11-month prison sentence, Sanford returned to the United Kingdom upon completing his 12-month and 1-day term. Number 5. Ronald Wilson Reagan. Ronald Wilson Reagan, an influential American politician and actor, was born on February 6, 1911, and passed away on June 5, 2004. Serving as the 40th President of the United States from 1981 to 1989, Reagan left a lasting mark as a prominent conservative figure in American politics within the Republican Party. After graduating from Eureka College in 1932, Reagan began his career as a sports broadcaster in Iowa. He later moved to California in 1937, gaining fame as a Hollywood actor. In 1966, Reagan transitioned to politics and was elected governor of California. Known for his policies of tax increases that led to a state budget surplus and a tough stance on university protests, Reagan's tenure as governor set the stage for his presidential ambitions. After securing the Republican nomination, he defeated Democratic President Jimmy Carter in the 1980 presidential election, having previously competed in and lost the 1976 Republican primary to President Gerald Ford. On March 30, 1981, just 2 months after his first inauguration, President Ronald Reagan was shot by John Hinckley Jr. outside the Washington Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. Hinckley's attempt to assassinate Reagan also wounded White House Press Secretary James Brady, Secret Service agent Tim McCarthy, and police officer Thomas Delahanty with a handgun. Brady was left permanently disabled by his injuries, which eventually led to his passing. Reagan, suffering from a shattered rib, a punctured lung, and internal bleeding, was rushed to George Washington University Hospital. Despite being critically wounded upon arrival, he recovered, narrowly escaping what Professor J. David Woodard described as an event that strengthened his bond with the American people. Reagan later believed that his survival was part of a divine purpose.
I've always believed that we were, each of us, put here for a reason, that there is a plan, somehow a divine plan for all of us.
On September 10, 2016, 35 years after the incident and 12 years after Reagan's death from pneumonia complicated by Alzheimer's disease, Hinckley was released from institutional mental care. Number 4. Abraham Lincoln. Born on February 12, 1809, Abraham Lincoln remains one of America's most revered statesmen, renowned for his pivotal role as a lawyer, politician, and the 16th President of the United States from 1861 until his tragic assassination in 1865. Lincoln's presidency unfolded against the backdrop of the American Civil War, a defining period in U.S. history marked by profound challenges and transformations. As president, Lincoln steadfastly upheld the Union as established by the Constitution, navigating the nation through the complexities of a devastating conflict that threatened to divide it permanently. His leadership was instrumental in defeating the Confederate States of America, thereby preserving the United States as a unified nation. Lincoln's commitment to the principles of freedom and equality was manifested in his efforts to abolish slavery, culminating in historic measures such as the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 and his unwavering support for the passage of the 13th Amendment to permanently outlaw slavery. On August 14, 1864, while traveling alone from the White House to the Soldiers' Home in Washington, D.C., Lincoln narrowly avoided an assassination attempt. During his solitary ride, an unknown assailant fired a shot that struck Lincoln's hat but miraculously missed him. Although shaken by the incident, Lincoln emerged physically unscathed, a testament to his resilience in the face of danger. Despite the gravity of the moment, the attempted assassination received limited attention at the time, overshadowed by the ongoing turmoil of war. The attempt on Lincoln's life in 1864 underscored the intense passions and deep-seated divisions that characterized the Civil War era. As a leader who symbolized the Union cause and the fight against slavery, Lincoln faced vehement opposition from those who opposed his policies and feared the changes he championed. The escalating tensions and widespread animosity fueled by the war made Lincoln a target for extremists who viewed his presidency as a threat to their ideological beliefs and way of life. Tragically, less than a year later, on April 14, 1865, Abraham Lincoln's life was cut short when he was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. The assassination of Lincoln, an act of profound hatred and desperation, stunned the nation and forever altered the course of American history. Number 3. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Born on January 30, 1882, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, often abbreviated as FDR, remains a towering figure in American political history, serving as the 32nd President of the United States from 1933 until his death in 1945. Roosevelt holds the distinction of being the only president to have served more than 2 terms, a tenure that spanned through the depths of the Great Depression and the tumult of World War II. In his initial terms, Roosevelt's presidency was defined by his relentless efforts to combat the economic devastation of the Great Depression through his New Deal programs. These initiatives aimed to revive the economy, provide relief to the suffering populace, and reform the financial system to prevent future crises. As the nation gradually emerged from economic despair, Roosevelt shifted his focus during his 3rd and 4th terms towards navigating America's involvement in World War II, steering the country through its pivotal role in the global conflict. Rooted in prominent lineage from both the Delano and Roosevelt families, Franklin Roosevelt's political journey began with his election to the New York State Senate in 1910, followed by his appointment as Assistant Secretary of the Navy under President Woodrow Wilson during World War I. His national prominence grew further when he ran as James M. Cox's vice presidential candidate on the Democratic ticket in the 1920 presidential election, although they were defeated by Republican Warren G. Harding. Elected in November 1932, Roosevelt's inauguration in March 1933 marked a pivotal moment in American history, as his administration ushered in a new era of government intervention and leadership during a time of profound crisis. Following the election, President Hoover attempted to persuade Roosevelt to abandon a significant portion of his agenda and accept the policies of the Hoover administration. Hoover asked Roosevelt to create a cooperative program to halt the economic downturn, but Roosevelt rejected his request, saying Hoover had the authority to take action and that it would limit his hands. Roosevelt narrowly avoided Giuseppe Zangara's assassination attempt in February 1933, despite Zangara's declaration of hate for all rulers.
You don't like him for president.
That's all.
As a man, he's all right.
The man is all right, but the president is all right.
A woman slapped Zangara with her pocketbook as he was aiming to shoot Roosevelt. Instead, he severely stabbed Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak, who was seated next to Roosevelt. Giuseppe Zangara, an Italian immigrant who became a naturalized citizen of the United States and was born on September 7, 1900, made an attempt to kill Franklin D. Roosevelt, on February 15, 1933, just 17 days before Roosevelt took office. At night on February 15, 1933, Roosevelt was making an impromptu address from the back of an open automobile in Miami, Florida's Bayfront Park neighborhood, where Zangara lived off his savings and occasionally took odd jobs. Zangara joined the crowd of spectators, armed with a .32 caliber US Revolver Company revolver that he had purchased for $8, roughly $190 in 2023 at a nearby pawn shop. However, because he was only 5 feet, 1.5 meters tall, he was unable to see over other people and had to stand on a wobbly metal folding chair, peering over Lillian Cross's hat from a distance of 25 feet to get a clear shot at his target. Mrs. Cross, who weighed 105 pounds and was only 4 inches higher than him, had his rifle positioned over her right shoulder. Zangara fired his first shot, then fired 4 more indiscriminately, while others, including Cross, grabbed his arm. Mrs. Joseph H. Gill suffered a serious abdominal wound. Miss Margaret Cruz of Newark, New Jersey, suffered a minor hand and scalp wound. William Sinnott, a New York detective and bodyguard, suffered a superficial head wound. Russell Caldwell of Miami sustained a forehead flesh wound. And Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak, who was standing on the running board of the car next to Roosevelt, was also struck. Mrs. Cross's right cheek was burned with powder. Bob Clark, a Secret Service agent, had a slightly cut hand. Maybe Mrs. Cross, who weighed 105 pounds and was only 4 inches higher than him, had his rifle positioned over her right shoulder. Bob Clark, a Secret Service agent, may have been injured by the bullet that struck Cermak because of a cut on his hand. Roosevelt, the intended target, escaped unscathed. As the automobile raced to the hospital, Roosevelt held the critically injured Cermak in his arms. It was then that Cermak talked to Roosevelt, and is said to have said, before passing away 19 days later, the words that are carved on his tomb, "I'm glad it was me, not you." Most academics dispute the phrase was actually spoken, and the Tribune printed it without citing a witness. Number 2. George Herbert Walker Bush. George Herbert Walker Bush, an American politician, businessman, and diplomat born on June 12, 1924, served as the 41st President of the United States from 1989 to 1993. A member of the Republican Party, Bush held various federal positions before becoming Ronald Reagan's vice president from 1981 to 1989. In April 1993, an assassination attempt targeted former President George H.W. Bush, orchestrated by Iraqi intelligence agents while he was visiting Kuwait. Bush was in Kuwait to commemorate the coalition's victory in the Gulf War. His schedule included attending a ceremony at Kuwait University, which became the target of a planned vehicle bomb attack. Fortunately, Kuwaiti officials discovered the bomb before it could detonate, leading to the arrest of 16 individuals involved in the plot. In response to this thwarted assassination attempt, President Bill Clinton ordered a cruise missile strike on June 26, 1993, targeting the Baghdad headquarters of the Iraqi intelligence service. This retaliatory strike aimed to hold the Iraqi government directly accountable for its role in orchestrating the assassination plot against Bush. Number 1. William Jefferson Clinton. Born on August 19, 1946, William Jefferson Clinton was an American politician who served as the 42nd President of the United States from 1993 to 2001. Prior to this, he served as the Democratic Party's governor of Arkansas twice, from 1979 to 1981, and from 1983 to 1992. Clinton's policies aligned with the centrist Third Way political doctrine, earning her the nickname New Democrat. Clinton defeated both Republican Party President George H.W. Bush and independent businessman Ross Perot in the 1992 presidential contest. During a period of peace, Clinton oversaw the longest period of economic prosperity in American history. He signed the North American Free Trade Agreement and the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act into law, but he was unable to pass his proposed national health care reform. In 1996, Clinton handily defeated Perot of the Reform Party and Bob Dole of the Republican Party to win re-election as president. For the first time in 40 years, the Republican Party took over control of Congress in unanimity following the 1994 elections, when he signed the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Act, the State Children's Health Insurance Program, and other financial deregulation bills in the mid-1990s. His ideological shift got underway. Additionally, he substantially shifted to conservatism in domestic affairs. Being the first president, he belonged to the baby boomer group from birth. with particular reference to his status as a doughty and tireless champion of the cause of world peace, a powerful collaborator in his wife, and receiving general applause for his achievement of resolving the gridlock that prevented an agreed budget. Clinton received an honorary degree and a fellowship from the University of Oxford in 1994, the year he was president. During a period of peace, Clinton oversaw the longest period of economic prosperity in American history. He signed the North American Free Trade Agreement and the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act into law, but he was unable to pass his proposed national health care reform. However, on October 29, 1994, President Bill Clinton narrowly escaped an assassination attempt when Francisco Martin Duran fired at least 29 shots from a semi-automatic weapon at the White House.
When armed gunman Francisco Duran opens fire on the White House.
Clinton, who was inside the building at the time, was unharmed. Secret Service agents and tourists swiftly subdued Duran, who was later convicted of attempting to kill the president and sentenced to 40 years in prison. Attacks on American presidents stem from personal, political, and ideological motives. Their stance on crucial issues like wars or civil rights often sparks strong public reactions. Mental health issues also play a role alongside the president's public visibility. These factors collectively contribute to the frequency of such attacks.